Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, Executive Editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the preview of Dmitri Mitropoulos' 10 Best Recordings, our Classics Today Insider feature. And that insider feature is available to all of you who have subscribed to ClassicsToday.com. Please do consider signing up. If you have not, there is a sign-up link below this very video. If you have, thank you very much. We're in for a treat. But as a special preview to all of you, the feature is going to be the review of the Dmitri Mitropoulos box. Yes, here it is. At long last. I mean, so many of you have been asking me to do this, and I've been so excited to do it, but there was just this little hitch. I wanted to listen to it first. You know? I mean, sure, I knew a lot of the stuff that was in here, but some of the remastering of the Minneapolis stuff and things I hadn't heard in years or at all. And so this was exciting, and I had a chance to listen to it. And now I'm going to tell you all about it. And I understand. I really understand. It's like a baby, right? I understand that we needed to do this quickly because these things tend to sell out and you want to know whether you want to get it or not or what you want to do with it. And so I appreciate that. And so here we go. So it's one of these beautiful Sony boxes. You know, it's the standard format now, like they have with the Ormandy box and the Zell box and the Walter box and the other boxes. It's a beautiful box. It's actually not as many discs as some of those other ones. There's only, I think, 69 of them, which is only 69, right? But you get the lovely coffee table book with beautiful notes and complete track listings, which are wonderful. And you have this like ribbon thing that helps you get it out. And here is the contents. You can see they fit in this central thing fairly simply. I think they use like a one-size box for most of these things, and then they have to, sort of arrange them internally to deal with the CDs. There are, let me make sure I have this correct, CD 66, 67, 68, 69 CDs, which is pretty good. And some of them are rather short playing time. They are original jackets for the most part. And the jackets that they have not used, here they are. Oh, those are the ugly ones. That they do not use originally. They actually include in the booklet. So you have all of the original jackets for you to stare at. Most of them are absolutely hideous because most jackets were back in those days. The cover art was not yet a thing. That was something I think actually that happened as a result of pop music or rock music, where album covers started to become important, and so they had to clean them up a little bit and stop making them look so dowdy and fusty and uninteresting. So the box is down there, and we're going to talk about the booklet. Here is the booklet. Now, I have to say something as a preface, not from the booklet. Oh my, that's sort of a scary close-up, isn't it? Okay, here's the bottom line. Mitropoulos is a cult conductor, and he gets a lot of attention from a small group of passionate admirers, like, Furtwängler and Horenstein and other cult conductors. And like most cult conductors, reality is sometimes other than what the cultists think. But like most cult conductors, he is regarded by his admirers as a victim. And he was not a victim. Let's be clear about these things. He was definitely a little kvetchy and whiny. He liked to complain a lot. I know that directly from the New York Philharmonic and other people who worked with him. There's this sort of story. And the story is that, he was all happy and wonderful in Minneapolis, and then he went to New York and he got treated very badly, and he had a lot of problems there, and he was treated very badly by his record label as well, by Sony, which didn't know what to do with him because they had Ormandy, and then he was displaced by Bernstein, and there was all this politics that he was sort of not up for or capable of handling, and all of that. And okay, so what's the reality? The reality is, like all of these artists, he was extremely self-absorbed. He had his own, way of thinking about things and doing things. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. And, the New York Philharmonic was not an easy group to get along with. Who cares? I mean, so what? It's his job. He's a professional. He either gets along with them or he doesn't. I mean, I have no sympathy, let's put it this way, for all the moaning and fetching about this guy. The fact is, when you look at this box, you see that Sony, the label that supposedly treated him so badly and wouldn't let him record complete Mahler cycles and all this other stuff, the fact of the matter is he made 69 CDs worth of stuff for him. That's a lot. That's a lot of stuff. And as you will see, it covers a very, very wide range of repertoire. So let us not pity him. The only sad thing about him is that he died very suddenly. He had a heart attack and dropped dead, in the middle of a concert or rehearsal for a concert. It was really very, very shocking. And he wasn't that old. And, it was really a terrible thing that he passed away. That was bad. But, not to blame that on like the Philharmonic and the people. Come on. Get over it, everybody. We have 69 CDs, most of which even his passionate admirers aren't going to listen to. And that's the truth. So let's talk about what's on those 69 CDs and how good it is, now that I've heard it all, and we can take it from there. The book is lovely, and we have to use the book because the original jackets and the trade cards don't tell you what's on the disc, all of it. They tell you some of what's on the disc. So here we are, kids. You ready? You ready? Uncle Dave is ready to tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a gay Greek guy, a really nice dude who really loved music of all kinds, including lots of strange modern music. And for that reason, he was looked at askance by some of the powers that be in the music business because it was a business and they quite understandably wanted to sell things. And Ernst Krenek wasn't going to really fill the coffers. So he definitely had some issues when it came to repertoire, but that was his choice. And we're lucky that that was his choice because frankly, he got them to do an astonishing amount of very strange stuff, as you are about to see. So I think it's really okay, my friends. It really is. Let's start at the beginning with CD one. Now, all of these recordings are with either Minneapolis or the New York Philharmonic, or a couple are with the Met. There's some other, stuff flying in from elsewhere. But essentially, that's what it is. Or Robin Hood Dell, actually, because he was the conductor there, which was the Philadelphia Orchestra in its summer guise. So, here we go. What is this? Oh! This is really fascinating. The first disc he ever did there contained the Borodin Second Symphony, which was sort of a special feature of his. He remade it with the New York Philharmonic. It's very, very good. But this is really cool. The Liszt Busoni Rhapsody Espagnole, orchestrated by Busoni, played by Liszt with Egon Petri. I mean, that's really rather special. Now that these all date from sort of the early 40s. 1940 is about when they start, up until about 1960, to the beginning of the stereo era. And, the early stuff, the stuff from the 40s, sounds like stuff from the 40s. It varies very widely in terms of recording quality. Sometimes it's quite good, sometimes it's quite grotty. But they've done their best to, fix it all up, and that's disc one. Disc two, because we got a lot of these to get through. Look at this, Mozart, 2 bits of the Themos, König im Ägypten, Themos, King of Egypt music, and then Grieg's 2 elegiac melodies, Bach Toccata in C major, arranged by Leo Weiner, Lully's Minuet, 2 Dvorak Slavonic dances, Chabrier's Joyeuse March, Meyerbeer's Coronation March. Boy, that's some collection of stuff, isn't it? CD 3, more Bach. This is all kinds of cool stuff with different arrangements, including some of MItropoulos's. The Fantasia and Fugue in G minor, the Great, BWV 542, and then some chorale preludes, the Glazunov Overture number 1 on 3 Greek themes, Ravel's Pièce en forme d'habanera, and then the Chopin Dmitri Rogal-Levitsky arrangement Chopiniana for orchestra with the Robin Hood Dell Symphony. Wow. Again, look at all that unusual repertoire. Goodness gracious. And we're only on CD 3. CD 4. Mozart piano concertos, the double concerto and the triple concerto. Let's make our lives easy. With Vronsky and Babin, and Joseph Levine. Now, one of those is with Thomas Sherman conducting. That's the three piano concerto. The other is with MItropoulos. And let's see here. We've got Mio, Le Boeuf sur le Toit, and Le Tombeau de Couperin, and let's see, Mio and stuff from, oh goodness, Mio's arrangement of Couperin's, the Overture to Allegro from the Sonata La Sultane. This is some very unusual stuff here. And Henri Rabault's La Procession Nocturne. And this is with the New York Phil and MItropoulos. And I have to say, Le Tombeau de Couperin is demented. It's way too fast. I was listening to it. It's like, okay, this may be the most insensitive version of that ever recorded. But all the other stuff is quite interesting. The Chausson Symphony and Walton's Portsmouth Point. That's an interesting coupling, isn't it? That's with Minneapolis. And then we've got, look at this, opera intermezzi. We've got Puccini's Manon Lescaut intermezzo and Mascagni's Cavalleria Rusticana intermezzo and Wolf Ferrari's Jewels of the Madonna, two intermezzos. Those are fun. If you don't know those pieces, you should. They're really, really brilliant. And then Menotti's Sebastian, the ballet suite, and Massenet's Scène Alsacienne, suite number 7. How's that for a collection of stuff? See, now, most of this stuff has been re-recorded and it's in better sound and all that, but to have all of this stuff back then, I mean, really, it's historically very interesting, and artistically, the performances are really pretty good. They really are. I mean, if you can hear them, they're great. Then we've got Rachmaninoff, The Isle of the Dead, and the Vaughan Williams Tallis Fantasia. That's CD 8. It's one disc. It's only 35 minutes long. A couple of these are short discs. This Vaughan Williams, I want to tell you, is quite interesting because it lasts about 15 minutes, and he redid it in New York, and it lasts about 12. So they're fascinating for comparison purposes. But the other thing that's interesting is I had no idea going into this that he'd actually done the work twice. And that's fascinating because for a non-English, conductor to make 2 recordings of the Tallis Fantasia in the days before stereo was really quite something. So the work must have meant something to him. It had to have. And I think it's evident from the performances. I really do. They're wonderful. So then we have that, and then we've got, the Mahler 1, the famous Mahler 1. It's a terrible Mahler 1. This is like the first official recording of Mahler 1. Who is anyone kidding? The orchestra is scruffy as hell. There are like parts just missing. It's a mess. It was released on Masterworks Heritage. I remember hearing it thinking, this is exciting. The first Mahler 1. Yay, whoa. Ooh, No, it's not any good. There are live ones that he did later that are better. I mean, if you're really curious about it. And one of the, I think, MItropoulos was a passionate advocate of Mahler, and that's great. I mean, it's really great. But the idea that somehow the record labels should have rolled over and let him record Mahler cycles when you had Bruno Walter out there who was desperate to do it, and then Bernstein who was desperate to do it, these other people, I mean, that's silly. That's just silly. It's not that one is better than the other. And it's one of these things. One of the reasons that his live Mahler is always lauded and drooled over is because the MItropoulos people, it seems to me, quite often are out to prove that there was Mahler before Bernstein and to diminish Bernstein's contribution. And I think that's foolish. Bernstein's contribution was what it was. MItropoulos did play all that other stuff. I've heard some of those recordings. Most of them are miserable. They really are. Some of them are okay. But he did it. He didn't have a chance to do it under controlled circumstances. And we're not worse off, is my point. With all the Mahler that's out there now, we're really not worse off. And that's why I don't want anybody hearing this to get into that weird cult mentality. Was he an important contributor to the revival of Mahler? Yes. Does it matter that we don't have these recordings? No, it does not. And this Mahler 1 is nothing special. Then we've got the Tchaikovsky Second Symphony. It's not bad. It has a really slow second movement and kind of a scattered scherzo. Finale's well done though, although the piccolo is very screamy up on top, and it's fun. I mean, how many Tchaik 2s were there? When was this recorded? It was like 1947, so there couldn't have been many, and so that's nice to have. And then we've got Cacciatore and the Piano Concerto and and Anton Rubinstein, the fourth Piano Concerto with Oscar Levant. So he did do something besides Gershwin. That's nice to know. That's with the New York Phil. And then we've got Tchaikovsky's first Piano Concerto with Arthur Rubinstein. Well, that's, of course, fun to have the concertos in here, by the way. Another lament we hear from MItropoulos people is, well, he had to do so many concerto accompaniments, bloopity, bloopity, bloop. Well, some of those performances are fabulous, and he had wonderful soloists. Wonderful soloists. So, Poulenc, Concerto for Two Pianos. This must have been brand new at the time, 47, yeah. Coupled with the Brahms Haydn variations, the two-piano version. The two pianists being Whitmore and Lowe. So that's pretty cool. And Roger Sessions, Symphony No. 2. Yes! It's a great piece, by the way, the Sessions Second Symphony. Morton Gould's Philharmonic Waltzes. Edward Lalo, Le Roi Dix Overture, and Elie Siegmeister's Ozark set. Siegmeister is one of those composers who was sort of a Copland wannabe. He did a Western suite. It's on, Abravanel did it. It's on Fox. You can hear it. And it's sort of like Copland, only not as good. And the Ozark suite is sort of not like Copland, only not as good. So there you go. It's like Delius's Appalachia, only not as good. Siegmeister was out there. He was like Graffe, but, for snobs or something like that. Anyway, that's one hell of a collection of stuff on CD 14. 15, which means we're almost a quarter there. Isn't that great? Schumann Rhenish, Weinberger's Polka and Fugue from Schwanda der Dudelsach-Pfeifer, and Morton Gould's Minstrel Show. MItropoulos was a big fan of Morton Gould. He did lots and lots of Morton Gould. Now, this is with Minneapolis, and the Schumann's really very good. It's very exciting. MItropoulos was an exciting Schumann conductor. He really was. Rachmaninoff, Symphony No. 2. This is with Minneapolis. It's the standard version with cuts, and it's very, very good. It's a very good performance, except at the end of the first movement. We had that whole discussion about why the timpani is really stupid at the end of the first movement. Well, oh boy. Oh boy. It sounds like a bass drum and timpani at the end of the first movement. Dot, 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 dot. Bam! But it's really a fine performance. The Franck Symphony in D minor, because back in the day, everyone in the universe had to do the Franck Symphony, and it's unusually perky. I like it. Tchaikovsky 4. Not very well recorded, unfortunately. Really, really not. Especially the Andante, which I think sort of starts maybe with a bar of pizzicato or something missing. I don't know. It sounds very odd. I have to go look at my score. I didn't feel like doing it. Anyway, it's very exciting. The finale is less than 8 minutes long. I mean, it's like, Mravinsky tempos, but not Mravinsky discipline. And that is the issue. Although, MItropoulos was always a very good Tchaikovsky conductor. He really was. So that's okay. Then we got the Beethoven Pastoral Symphony, which is absolutely nothing special. As usual, it's got a very quick first movement. It's only 8 minutes long. And then you've got like a 12-minute and 18-second long slow movement. So the whole thing, as far as I'm concerned, is kind of out of whack. And, it's not something that I would spend a lot of time listening to. Mendelssohn, Scottish Symphony. He did it twice. He did another one in New York, and we'll talk about that one too. He always did wonderful Mendelssohn. He really did. He put the neurosis back into the music, and it benefits tremendously from that. It really does. It's wonderful. And then we've got the Capriccio Brilliant with Joanna Groudon piano, and the movement, the scherzo from the octet. That's all with the Minneapolis Symphony. And let's see, we turn the page several times, and we're on CD 21. Dukas, The Sorcerer's Apprentice. He would also redo that in New York. And Rimsky-Korsakov, 3 movements from the 4 musical pictures from the Golden Cockerel, but you only get 3 of them. You get 1, 3, and 4. Prokofiev's Classical Symphony. Glière, The Russian Sailor's Dance. That's fun. And then Schumann's Second Symphony, along with another performance of the 4th bit of the Golden Cockerel, which is the wedding and lamentable end of Dodon. That's a perfect coupling with Schumann, isn't it? But, these were 78, so, they did that first. That was the earlier version. And the Schumann 2 is quite exciting and very good. Chopin, Piano Concerto No. 1 with Edward Killenyi. And let's see what we got here. Brahms, the Haydn variations. And this is the orchestral version, the Weber Jubel Overture, and then Beethoven's Coriolan. Very, very exciting Coriolan, really fast and brutal. And Leonore number 3, also quite swift and exciting. Ernest Bloch, Shalomo. Yay, we love Shalomo. With the Saint-Saëns First Cello Concerto with Leonard Rose and the New York Phil. Stravinsky, Petrushka. Oh, this is kind of a mess. It's really kind of a mess, I got to tell you. I mean, it's just, it's very erratic tempo-wise, and the ensemble just ain't there. It's with the New York Phil. Petrushka's hard. Petrushka's really hard, and it's actually harder than the Rite of Spring in some spots from a coordination point of view. Then we have Wozzeck. Oh, the famous Wozzeck with all those, it's got Eileen Farrell and Mac Harrell and Frederick Jägel and Joseph Mordino and all those other people. And it's wonderful. A classic. A definite classic. Always has been. And it's amazing he was able to get Sony to release it. But they did. You see, it wasn't all bad. It wasn't. Debussy, La Mer, along with the Ormandy Iberia. And they left it, the Ormandy Iberia there. Now, this was a real problem, I have to say. The La Mer, it starts off wonderfully. And then the recording disintegrates as it goes. And in the finale, all the percussion disappears. And I don't know what's going on with that finale. It's really a shame because it could have been a really good La Mer. I got the concept, but it doesn't sound. Then we have Schoenberg. Oh, we're on CD 30 already. Yes. Schoenberg, Erwartung. Yeah. Wonderful. And the Krennic Symphonic Elegy for String Orchestra, which is a bit of an ordeal. And Verklärte Nacht. Yum with Dorothy Dow and the New York Phil. Those are classic performances. Absolutely classic performances. Then the Max Bruch First Violin Concerto. Beethoven Romance, another romance. This is with, the romances are with Jean Morel conducting. And the Saint-Saëns Concerti, Saint-Saëns Third Concerto and the Bruch First are both with Zino Francescatti. And these Francescatti recordings with MItropoulos are also classics. They're wonderful performances. Absolutely wonderful performances. Gottschalk, Cakewalk, the Ballet Suite, but that's with Ormandy. But it's coupled with Morton Gould's Fall River Legend Ballet Suite, which is wonderful. It's about Lizzie Borden, who took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. And when she saw what she had done, she gave her other mother or father 41, whatever it goes. Roy Travis, Symphonic Allegro. Now, there's a household name. And that Couperin Mio Overture Allegro from La Sultane. Again, don't ask me why. Berlioz, Romeo and Juliet excerpts. All this stuff without the chorus, 46 minutes worth. Kind of a curiosity in this day and age, but exciting and fun to listen to, for sure. Prokofiev, Violin Concerto number 2. This is with Francescatti again, coupled with the Bach Concerto, Second Violin Concerto with Zell and the Columbia Symphony. So there you go. Then Prokofiev, Piano Concerto number 3. Oh, yeah. This is with MItropoulos playing and conducting. And it's a scorcher. It's a very famous Prokofiev third. It's as fast as you will ever hear it done. Extremely exciting. And then we have Scriabin, the poem of extase. And it's ecstatic. And Prometheus, the poem of fire. Oh, this is so much fun. MItropoulos really should have been like a permanent Scriabin conductor because he had the passion and the impetus and the craziness and the wildness and all of that stuff. So that's really a fun record to listen to, even though, it's not modern sonically, but it's okay. We don't care. Shostakovich Fifth, kind of quirky. It opens very grippingly. It really is. And it's wonderful. The finale is terrifying. It's very slow and very heavy, but it speeds up as it goes, and it winds up concluding, much more quickly than Shostakovich probably intended. It's a very personal approach to it, but it works. It works perfectly well, so that's okay. CD 37. We're cruising along, folks. The Caucasian Sketches by Ippolitov Ivanov. Orchestral Suite number 1. and the Polovtsian dances, and in the steppes of Central Asia with the New York Phil. Those are just fun. I mean, it's just fun music. It's a fun record. So that's perfectly fine, too. Schoenberg Violin Concerto. Ooh. Coupled with the Berg Violin Concerto with the Cleveland Orchestra and Rodzinski, all played by Louis Krosner, who was, the proximate commissioner of both works, or the one for whom they were written. And I've always thought that he wasn't any great shakes compared to modern violinists playing the same music, but these are historically important, and some people swear by him so they can continue swearing. Here's the other Mendelssohn Scottish Symphony, coupled with the Reformation and the Hebrides, Fingal's Cave, and Roy Bloss. And I really like MItropoulos' Mendelssohn. It's a lot of fun. It's quite meaty and exciting and a lot more muscular than most people treat Mendelssohn, and I think that's wonderful. You can certainly take it. Shostakovich 10. This is a great performance. This is when the piece was brand new. It's a lot like the Ancherel. It's very similar to the Ancherel performance, actually. Not quite as well played or as well recorded, I think, but they date from around the same time, and it's kind of amazing that when this work was new, you had two really, really fine, essentially premier recordings competing with each other. It's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Then the Wallingford Rieger Third Symphony. Yes! And the Peter Menon Third Symphony. Now, the Rieger is the Eastman Rochester Symphony under Howard Hanson, of all people. But the Menon Third is our good old friend, Dmitri. So there we are. We're in business there. And, this is a classic. The Berlioz Les Nuits d'été with Eleanor Stieber. Fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. And then there are a bunch of other Berlioz, extended song things conducted by Jean Morel with the Columbia Symphony. But boy, oh boy, it's beautiful, beautiful stuff. And that's a very famous recording of Les Nuits d'été. For Stieber as much as for MItropoulos, of course. It's just wonderful to have that. Then we've got Mendelssohn and Tchaikovsky Violin Concerti with Francescatti. Now, these are very famous performances, and I just did a Mendelssohn Violin Concerto a Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto roundup where I didn't mention this performance, and possibly I should have, but there were already so many out there. But yeah, Francescatti and MItropoulos and Tchaikovsky was something special. It really was. Then we have the Borodin Second again. It's a great performance. Tchaikovsky's Suite Number 1. That's a real rarity, and that's really fun to hear. At this early date, nobody was doing that stuff, and so that's really cool to have. And the Tchaikovsky Fifth. This is not as good as his Pathétique, which is coming later. It's actually, well, first of all, it's not terribly well recorded. And the finale is surprisingly just lacking in impetus for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's the sonics. It's the recording. It sounds rather tinny, the whole thing. It's not a bad performance by any means, but it's not really special either. The Shostakovich Violin Concerto, yay, which was also brand new, with David Oistrakh, one of the great classic Oistrakh collaborations. A fabulous, fabulous performance. The Beethoven Emperor with Casadei-Su, which is also wonderful. One of the great Casadei-Su recordings. And the Bach Concerto for 3 keyboards with lots of Casadei-Suses. You get the whole family in there. So that's fun to have. And let's see, Prokofiev, Lieutenant Gige with Kodaly Harry-Janos. What could be bad? It's charming. It's fun to listen to. It's CD 48. And then we got more. This one really intrigued me because I didn't know this existed either, to be honest with you. The Saint-Saëns tone poems, all 4 of them. That's Danse Macabre, La Ruée d'Omphale, Feuilleton, and La Jeunesse d'Hercule. Wow. All of them. I mean, there they all are. I didn't know anybody did that stuff earlier. The performances are quite good. I think that the Thunderbolt and Feuilleton could have been a little bit more zappy. The sound is the sound, but gee whiz, all 4 Saint-Saëns tone poems. I mean, that's real creative stuff. So again, it's interesting what's in here, isn't it? For someone who was supposedly treated so badly, the record labels wouldn't do anything and they didn't care and blah, 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 blah. Yes, there's a lot of very, very interesting stuff. Then here's the Vaughan Williams Fourth and the Tallis Fantasia with the New York Philharmonic. Now, this is gorgeous, and it's in stereo. Yeah, we're on CD 50. This Vaughan Williams Fourth is stunning, and I if you read the MItropoulos biography, High Priest of Music or whatever it was called, there's some wonderful quotes from English critics because the New York Philharmonic went on tour, and they took the Vaughan Williams Fourth on tour, and it's wonderful to see the English critics sniffily say, "Well, yes, of course the orchestra plays it wonderfully, but it's too loud, it's too noisy, it's just I mean, Vaughan Williams Fourth, right? The Godzilla Eats Tokyo music. It's too noisy. Listen to them. The English critics were always that way. God forbid something should ruffle their ruffles. Goodness. All right, Günter Schuller, Symphony for Brass and Percussion. J.J. Johnson, Poem for Brass. John Lewis, Three Little Feelings. Jimmy Giuffre, Pharaoh, with Günter Schuller conducting those last three, but MItropoulos conducts the Schuller Symphony for Brass and Percussion. So that's a novelty. And we've got, whoa, goodness, William Schumann's Credendum. That was with Ormandy in Philly. It's in the Ormandy box. And I think it's in the Ormandy box, or at least it was in maybe the mono one or something. Was it a mono one? I don't know. Anyway, we know Ormandy did it. And then Kirchner, Concerto for Piano and Orchestra No. 1, with Leon Kirchner playing the piano and MItropoulos conducting. Then we've got this wonderful Falla disc, a great Nights in the Gardens of Spain with Robert Casadesus and El Sombrero de Tres Picos, the three-quartered hat, the Tres Picos. And, well, that's such wonderful music. And the Intermezzo, Danza Española No. 1 from La Vida Breve. Good Spanish, hot-blooded stuff. Then we've got the Sorcerer's Apprentice again. Can't have too many of those. And the Weinberger Polka and Fugue from Schwanda der Dudelsack Pfeiffer. See, we're sort of getting into the stereo era here. And we've got, Salome, the Dance of the Seven Veils. That's hot and spicy. And the list, Les Preludes, all of it fun. Then we've got a Tchaikovsky Pathétique, one of the great ones. Absolutely one of the great ones. It's a fabulous performance of the Pathétique, spontaneous and passionate and lots of fun. So that's great to have, and much better than the fourth or the fifth. And then Prokofiev, the Violin Concerti with Isaac Stern. Leonard Bernstein conducts No. 2. MItropoulos conducts No. 1. And then we've got Barber's Vanessa on CDs 57 and 58. Now, this is, another point I wanted to make is that one of the sad things, and this is a sad thing, about the MItropoulos discography is that he was a wonderful opera conductor. He was a real theatrical guy. And it's a shame that he wasn't able to record more complete operas, because I think he was really good at that stuff. He really was. I mean, what we have doesn't necessarily reflect that, but it does in Wozzeck, and it does here in Vanessa, which is an important work, a wonderful work. And this is still, a classic recording with Eleanor Stieber and Rosalind Elias and Regina Resnick and Nikolai Getta and Giorgio Tozzi. And wow, what a cast! Phenomenal. Then we've got the Prokofiev Romeo and Juliet music, the ballet suites, which were always sort of classic MItropoulos and wonderful performances. They're very, very fine. And Boris Godunov, this really blew my mind. This is Boris Godunov abridged. It's sort of like highlights from Boris Godunov, but it's two full discs of it with some major singers. You've got, who are the major singers here? Wait a minute, I got the list. Oh, there we are, Giorgio Tozzi. And let's see, Margaret Rogero and Laurel Hurley and Sandra Warfield and Charles Coleman is the tenor. Okay. The thing that's so interesting about this is that it begins with the coronation scene. I mean, the first scene with the prologue, it's not there at all. It begins with the coronation scene. And the fascinating thing about it is that you're really quite well into it. It's not until Boris starts singing, Giorgio Tozzi, that you realize that it's in English. Until then, you can't tell at all. Then all of a sudden you hear someone going, I feel a strange presentiment in my heart. And you go, oh boy, It's a curiosity, nothing more. Symphonie Fantastique, very, very good. A very fine, passionate Symphonie Fantastique. And MItropoulos was kind of the guy to do that because he was as neurotic as Berlioz. So he catches all of those elements. It's very frenetic, but not out of control. So that's important. It's really good. Now we've got Tchaikovsky, the March Slav, A Night on Bald Mountain, Capriccio Italienne, and the Skalkatis Four Greek Dances. Now the Four Greek Dances by Skalkatis, I wish he'd done them all. That's the best thing on the disc. The other stuff is really quite mediocre and not exciting. The March Slav particularly has a very logy and unuplifting coda, which I don't understand. Then we've got Verdi Ballo excerpts with Marian Anderson, and they also give us the Met version of the whole opera. And we all know that it wasn't a great Ballo, not for anybody. So, Anderson was past her prime. The other singers are okay. Who is it? It's Milanov and Jan Pierce, I think. Something like that. Yeah, Jan Pierce, Leonard Warren, Zinka Milanov. There we go. And Roberta Peters. It's okay. It's not special. Walton, Violin Concerto, well, that's with Ormandy. And the Lalo, Symphony Espagnole, in the four-movement version with Francescatti. Okay, we don't care about that particularly. Now, this is interesting. Hindemith Sonata for oboe and piano, and the Loeffler Two Rhapsodies for oboe, viola, and piano, with Harold Gomberg oboe, Milton Katims viola, and MItropoulos at the piano, as he was in the Prokofiev Third Piano Concerto. So that's nifty. That's definitely nifty. And we've got Beethoven, the Third Piano Concerto with Jean Casadessus, along with some Mozart variations. And then here's the Ballo that I was telling you about. That's the whole thing. That's really quite a selection of stuff. Lots of interesting music, lots of unusual repertoire. I think MItropoulos comes off very, very well from the whole exercise. This is admittedly because of the unusualness of a lot of the repertoire and because of MItropoulos' own rather erratic interpretive persona. It's a real collector's item. But I can certainly recommend this for collectors. My goodness, for people who've been waiting for MItropoulos to hear what he was all about and what he did, this is a very fair representation, I think, of his artistry. There is more than enough really, really good stuff to justify the acquisition, and more than enough really interesting stuff for collectors who just don't want more of the same old, same old. And that's the point, isn't it? So I hope this has given you at least a taste. And for you ClassicsToday.com subscribers, go over to ClassicsToday.com, look at the 10 best, listen to some samples, and have a good time with it. But all of you should. It's really a wonderful achievement to see all of this coming back. I think MItropoulos certainly deserved the attention, and I think that this box ought to, for the people who are sane and living in the real world, it should, I think, serve as a corrective to some of the rumors and foolishness that we hear about how his career in New York particularly shaped up and what his relationship was to the record label, because they put an awful lot into making all of these records. They really did. I mean, let's not, fool ourselves. And so it's wonderful to have all this stuff back. I'm very happy. So keep on listening, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.